Recently, I've started having visions of what's to come. These revelations have given me a deep sense of responsibility and urgency. The visions conveyed clear and unsettling messages about upcoming events, particularly concerning what will happen in June 24. I feel compelled to share these revelations with humanity as a warning for the times ahead. Hello. Welcome to another video on our channel. Here, we translate accounts of people who have had near-death experiences and other spiritual encounters. Today, we will hear the story of Enola Bryan. She recounts that she died and returned, having seen angels and visions of the future, and issues a warning for June 2024. If you're not yet subscribed to the channel, subscribe now. Activate the bell to be notified about new video. This week, we began cleaning our house, removing all the mud left by the flood and washing appliances to try to recover them. We will salvage what we can and discard almost everything. As I mentioned, I live with my family in El Dorado do Sul, a city entirely affected by the flood. We are still staying at a friend's house, who has generously taken us in the capital. We are organizing our things. We will have significant expenses ahead. If you want to help, I'll leave the Pix key on the screen and in the video description. I thank everyone who has supported and helped us. This support has been crucial for me, my wife, and my daughter. Immense gratitude. Now, let's hear Enola's account. Throughout my life, my search for a loving God and the release from the paralyzing fear of death culminated in a brief journey to paradise. After a debilitating illness, this near-death experience profoundly transformed me, revealing to me that God is only love, without judgment or punishment. I understood the unity of all existence, which permeates my life with peace and the unwavering knowledge of divine goodness. When I finally gave up my will to live, renouncing my life, death presented itself in a sublimely easy way, after a long battle with an immune system disorder and losing everything that gave meaning to my existence. On the night I died, the decision to leave this world occurred in an elongated moment of absolute silence. Without passion, I watched my spirit leave my body, feeling a strange detachment from my physical body and the life I had built. I was no longer attached to a suffering mass of flesh. I was not that body, but I still existed, albeit in a new state. Gone was the searing pain that accompanied all my waking moments. The effort to expand my lungs to breathe had vanished. The fatigue that weighed on my life for years was lifted. The depression that drained my mind of hope no longer afflicted me. Vision and sound no longer burned my head with pain, leaving me emotionally desolate. Yet I existed, feeling light and calm, although I knew I was no longer in that lifeless body lying on the bed. The eyes and brain I once identified as mine were in that inanimate object from which I no longer identified. Still conscious of vision, thoughts, and sensations, I observed my new reality with tranquility. Slowly I looked around, and the afterlife vision unfolded. Below me I saw a vast infinity of darkness, like a void or black hole. I was irresistibly drawn to this darkness, gradually feeling myself sink toward it. I thought without fear or any emotional reaction. Isn't it strange? I was so afraid of being judged and sent to heaven or hell, but it seemed I would simply disappear into the darkness, into nothingness. Even my new consciousness diminished as I succumbed to the weight that enveloped me. The darkness filled my mind. The darkness filled my mind. My vision became obscured as I began to merge into the void of blackness. Offering no resistance, I released my control over any remaining fragment of consciousness and personal identity. At the exact moment I felt the last of me disappear into the nothingness, a powerful energetic force surged below me, lifting and carrying me upward. Suddenly I was overcome by a sense of ascension, as if traveling upward at unimaginable speed. A feeling of wind passed over my face and body with tremendous force, without discomfort. Vast distances seemed to fly around me. The higher I rose, the more my mind purified. I became aware of a deep feeling of peace and warmth permeating my confused senses. The energy that enveloped me had a definite presence. I tried to see what was happening and who was carrying me. Who or what cared for me with such tenderness? I felt at peace and immensely loved. I knew I was in the arms of a being who cared for me with perfect love, carrying me from the shadowy void to a new reality. As my mind cleared of past mortal associations, I finally managed to open my being fully to the spirit. My vision cleared with the eyes of my soul. I looked to see what held me with such love and saw a radiant spirit, a being so magnificent and full of love that I knew I would never again feel the sensation of loss. I don't know how to explain it, but I knew the spirit was Christ. It wasn't belief, perception, or understanding. My recognition of Christ came from my new spiritual perspective. I didn't see the spirit as Jesus of Nazareth depicted in paintings, but the innate knowledge of my heart recognized Christ. The radiant spirit was Christ, the manifestation and expression of pure love. Because of my Christian upbringing, I knew no other name to call what I felt. Others might call it Buddha, Yahweh, or Great Spirit in the sky. But the name didn't matter. Only the recognition of absolute love and truth were important. In the gentle and powerful embrace of Christ's love, I rested assured that all was well, exactly as it should be. I was ascending higher and higher when I raised my eyes and saw a great light in the vast distance. With Christ as my guide, I quickly approached the luminescence. I felt my soul being filled as I watched that brilliance many times more radiant than the sun. The light was everywhere, more intense than anything I had ever seen, and dazzling beyond description, to the point of blinding or burning. Yet I was unharmed. The light moved repeatedly, washing every hidden corner of my heart, removing all pain and fear, transforming my being into a song of joy. While thinking about the love I felt for Christ, I realized that the light we ascended to was the fulfillment of my search. It was the loving source of all that exists, the God of truth and unconditional love, the origin of creation. My understanding of love changed forever. The majesty and glory of that vision were an unspeakable moment that forever defined the direction of my new truth. I was home and wanted nothing more than to remain in God's light. Christ handed me over to the light, and I stood in God's presence. I was filled with complete knowledge. The light was love, and love was God. Waves of consummated love emanated from the light, obliterating every burden I carried, and every thought that prevented me from knowing God. I became aware of my purity with a new clarity. I realized I was walking through life like a ghost, wrapped in a shroud of fear, huddled against illusions. I clung to like a lover open to the liquid flow of golden light that filled my empty shell to overflowing. There was no limit to this outpouring. As I reached ecstasy, the awareness of the infinite nature of God's love enfolded me. There was no place where God didn't exist, and I was within God. I am an inseparable part of the light. The truth of who I really am, of who we all are, is perfect love, as God's creation. God's creation is one creation, and I am one with it. God and I are one, creator and created. I spent a lifetime fearing judgment. Now, being with God, I was completely known and found impeccable. I knew God considered me perfect. God loved me because love is the totality of God. God loves without limits. Finally, everything made sense. God could only be love, nothing other than love. The only reality is God, and God is love. I had found my true home. I turned to Christ and said it was beautiful, that I was home and wanted to stay there. Christ replied that I could stay for a while but then had to return. I couldn't believe I would need to return to physical reality after a lifetime of confusion and fear. Being before a completely loving, non-judgmental God was all I yearned for. However, I was informed I needed to return. A striking aspect of the transformation in my life after the near-death experience was the loss of the fear of death. In fact, death became my favorite topic. Where once I forbade even mentioning the word death in my house, now my family and friends couldn't stop me from talking about my incredible experience. Surprisingly, I was sad and angry, even defiant. It puzzled me. After a lifetime of fear, I had finally reached heaven and was sent back. Why did this happen? I wondered if I was insignificant somehow. For nearly a year, I used to lie in bed at night, crying, sobbing, and pleading with God to let me return home. I wasn't one of the lucky people who experienced a spontaneous remission of their illness after a near-death experience. I was still very sick and didn't understand why I had to remain on Earth when I could make no contribution and interacted little with my family or others. I found myself whining, questioning, and begging God, "Please, if I have to stay here, why not heal me so I can do something?" Pleading, I cried, "If you won't heal me completely, at least let me be well enough to paint for an hour a day. If I can't do anything, why not let me be around people somehow? I am lonely." Though I felt waves of love washing over me constantly when I stopped complaining long enough to remember my experience. I never received the answers to my pleas. At least not the answers I wanted. After about a year, I made a new, profound, and sincere prayer from the depths of my heart. Once again, I renounced my own will and left behind my efforts to direct my life. Just as on the night, I gave up control and surrendered. I said to God, "My dear God, I give up. I don't know what's right for me or what I should do, who I should meet, or what I should say. I don't even know what to think. I always ask for what I believe is best for me. God, I don't know what's best for me. My life is yours. What you want for me is fine. If I lie in this bed sick and incapacitated for the rest of my life, whether for 20 minutes or 20 years, it's okay. Whatever happens, it's okay. I know you love me." And then I added a request. "However, please, if I live, let me be useful to you in some way." A curious manifestation after my near-death experience was that I began to see a white, luminous glow around people and objects. Since I had many physical anomalies during my illness, I assumed these lights were just another optical side effect of the illness. Later, however, I discovered these lights were much more than that. As my health slowly improved, I occasionally managed to make small trips for appointments. One day, while driving on a busy street, I stopped at a red light and observed a strange scene unfolding before me. A delivery truck was parked on the right side of the street, about half a block ahead. The truck was one of those that open from the sides rather than the back. I saw the driver walking around the traffic side of his truck and beginning to unload his cargo, with oncoming traffic approaching. Inside my car, I said aloud with my little southern accent, "Oh dear, you shouldn't do that. It's dangerous." On that remarkable day, I watched in awe as the familiar lights danced around the deliveryman, quickly spinning and merging into the form of a dazzling, translucent woman. A radiant spirit of light. Perhaps it was because I sent a loving and concerned thought to the deliveryman that the spirit turned its loving gaze towards me. For a brief moment, when our eyes met, she smiled at me and then, hovering over the unaware man, returned her attention to her ward, who was oblivious to the heavenly presence and preoccupied with his work. I was overwhelmed, barely able to breathe, afraid the vision would vanish, mesmerized by the scene. Reluctant to look away from the scene's beauty, I began to notice through my peripheral vision even more lovely lights. When I managed to tear my eyes away from the spirit, I slowly looked around. Wherever I looked, people had loving and beautiful spirits around them. The spirits accompanied people walking carefree along the sidewalks and were inside cars, not limited by physical barriers. I could see the glow and form of the beings around the occupants. I observed runners with beams of light shining behind them as their spirits matched their pace. As people entered and exited buildings, beings of light followed them. The scene before me was filled with bright white light. With my limited comprehension as a human being, I struggled to understand the significance of what I was seeing. I knew that the lights were connected to specific individuals, almost as if they were an extension of their existence, a luminous connection to a higher aspect of themselves. The lights connected with the glowing humans were so bright and expansive that they formed a kind of light grid. I remembered stories in books about near-death experiences, where people saw grids from the other side, something they couldn't explain. As I contemplated the network of light before me, I felt an intense manifestation of love emanating from the beings of light. The connection between humans and these beings was through love, and love itself was linked by this network. The metaphor represented by the image I saw and perceived was absolutely clear and impressed me profoundly. I understood that we are all one, interconnected through love, and that there are higher levels and means of communication than those we normally use, but which are within our reach. This love is available to anyone willing to do the arduous spiritual work necessary to open our hearts, minds, and eyes to the Spirit. I remembered the love I felt in the presence of God and experienced an overall sense of love for all existence as an interconnected unity and a divine manifestation. Repeatedly, this single truth was revealed to me. Only God exists. God is everything. All I see is a representation of God. Not the physical mirage, but the radiant glow behind the mask. This glow brought me back to everyday consciousness with the sound of a horn. I looked at the speedometer and realized I was almost stopping the car, tears streaming down my face, nearly blind with emotion. I pulled the car over to the side of the road until I could absorb what I'd witnessed and regain my composure. I don't know how long I sat there, taking in the wonder of that event. But I couldn't move until the spectacular vision slowly dissipated, returning to the more familiar form of lights around the bodies of the people I observed. I was reluctant to leave, hoping the angels would return. I called them angels because I didn't know what else to call them. When I regained enough senses to drive, I went home eager to tell my husband. I still wondered what he would think, whether he would believe I was hallucinating, sick again, or maybe even losing my sanity. To his credit, he listened carefully to my story. After I told him everything, he replied, "Can you see something around me?" Looking deeply at the lights around him, I discovered that by focusing, a form emerged, resembling a beautiful spirit. When I described the spirit, he was moved. Encouraged by his response, I told my story to my children and friends, and they spread the information to their own friends, who started asking curious, sometimes timid or skeptical questions about whether I could see beings around them too. Sharing the love I felt coming from the inhabitants of a dimension where love reigns was a joy. Enthusiastically, I told anyone who wanted to know if they too had angels around them. Eventually, my ability to see the angelic realm spread through newspaper articles, television appearances, university lectures, and most significantly by word of mouth. Today, I devote my time to readings, counseling, and lectures, while conversing with more and more people, gaining new insights. In the beginning, I called what I saw angels because there was no other way to describe what I was witnessing. These beings were always affectionate, radiant, and had a supernatural and enchanting presence. Interestingly, as my ability to perceive spirits evolved, I began to notice a different kind of spirit around people, and they captured my attention. I felt the responsibility to describe exactly what I saw, and only what I perceived around the people seeking a reading, even if their spirits didn't resemble the stereotypical angel they expected. For example, once I mentioned to a woman about an older man with prominent ears, wearing small round glasses, and displaying a goofy smile showing gapped teeth. The woman was astonished, and with tears in her eyes exclaimed, "Oh my God, I recognize him. That's my uncle who was killed." I always wondered if he was okay. The spirit smiled and communicated telepathically with me. I was able to inform the niece, whom he still loved, that he was okay and had always been by her side. When this happened the first time, I was caught by surprise, confused, and with a knot of apprehension in my stomach. I thought, great, now I'm seeing dead people. If I hadn't gone through a near-death experience, I might have thought I was losing my mind. But after that experience, I could see angels and, apparently, also the spirits of deceased people. There's no death. I can report the presences from other realms where spirits reside after leaving their mortal existence. I've also found that, occasionally, I can see the spiritual form of people who are still alive on Earth. I quickly overcame my apprehension about this ability by seeing the happiness and comfort it provided to people. Recently, I've started having visions about the future, revelations that filled me with a deep sense of responsibility and urgency. These visions brought clear and concerning messages about imminent events, especially about what is to happen in June 24. I feel compelled to share these revelations with humanity as a warning for the times to come. In my vision, I saw a significant increase in conflicts between countries. Tensions, already high, will reach a critical point, triggering a series of alarming developments. Small disagreements will turn into large confrontations, and the impact will be felt globally. I saw powerful nations confronting each other, and the consequences will be devastating for all of us. The escalation of these conflicts will cause immense suffering and incalculable losses, both in human lives and natural resources. Besides conflicts between countries, my visions also showed me severe climate changes that will affect various regions of the planet. June 2024 will be marked by extreme weather events. Storms of unprecedented intensity will devastate densely populated areas, causing floods and massive destruction. Unbearable heat waves will affect other regions, bringing wildfires that will rapidly spread, consuming everything in their path. These natural and human catastrophes are not just isolated tragedies but signs of a collapsing system. The message I received is clear. We need to act now. We must seek peace, understanding, and cooperation between nations to avoid the looming disasters. We must also change our relationship with the environment, adopting sustainable practices and respecting nature to mitigate the devastating effects of climate change. If we do not take immediate steps, we will face a bleak future where suffering and destruction become commonplace. My vision is a call to action, a plea for everyone, leaders and citizens, to awaken to the urgency of this moment. I believe there is still time to change the course of events, but this change depends on our collective willingness to do what is right for humanity and the planet. Thank you for listening to my account. I hope everyone stays well. So what did you think of this incredible story? Leave your opinion in the comments. Consider supporting our work by donating any amount. The Pix key is found in the video description. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Activate the notification bell to be alerted to every new video. Let's bring more people the hope that life exists beyond what the eyes can see.